Welcome back to my channel. What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton's toughest battle this season isn't against Max Verstappen or Oscar Piastri but against Ferrari itself, 14 races in. Hamilton has 0 podiums while Charles Leclerc already has 5, and now, whispers from Monaco suggest that a single 8-second radio exchange could have sparked internal tensions that might reshape Ferrari's entire championship approach. With shocking new leaks ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix, Formula One may be facing a disaster nobody saw coming. According to insider reports, 14 races into the season, the numbers speak louder than any press release. Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, one of the greatest drivers in history, stands without a single podium in Ferrari red. Not one spray of champagne, not one trip to the top 3. The official storylines coming out of Ferrari plead for patience. They talk about transition, about adaptation time, as if Hamilton somehow forgot how to drive overnight. But sources inside the paddock are whispering something entirely different. Hamilton isn't being given the space to adapt. He's being asked to conform. The evidence has been stacking up across multiple weekends. Look at Hungary. Charles Leclerc, Ferrari's golden boy, starts on pole. He looks dominant early, but then fades inexplicably as the race unfolds. Public explanations range from tire pressures to floor damage, but most experts dismiss those excuses as hollow. Yet when Hamilton's race pace dips, the narrative is instantly turned on him. Suddenly, it isn't the car, it isn't the setup, it's Hamilton himself. This double standard is telling. Inside Ferrari, perception shapes protocol. Every podium Leclerc earns reinforces the belief that the car should be designed around him, that his driving style is the baseline. Meanwhile, Hamilton's requests sharper turn-in response, more aggressive brake migration, adjustments to rear-end stability, are acknowledged in meetings, but quietly shelved when it matters. At Spa, the pattern repeated itself. Hamilton asked for a more aggressive rear wing balance to suit his style. At first, the request was granted, but before qualifying, the setup was rolled back. The justification? Protecting rear tire life. Yet the data from Hamilton's own long runs showed something entirely different. His degradation was actually better under compromised fuel loads. The numbers contradicted the narrative, but the narrative won anyway. For casual fans, this could be brushed off as part of a normal adjustment period. Every driver needs time to bond with a new car, right? But dig into the telemetry and a much sharper picture emerges. In practice sessions at Hungary, Hamilton consistently pushed for changes: differential preload tweaks, rear suspension damper adjustments, subtle shifts to improve turn and sharpness. These weren't wild demands, they were textbook refinements from a driver with unmatched experience. But the responses? Either delayed until they became meaningless or outright reversed overnight. Sources inside Ferrari have even coined a phrase for it: resistance by protocol. Any change that doesn't fit the Leclerc model is treated as a disruption, not an improvement. And that resistance is starting to look less like oversight and more like a strategy, a quiet but deliberate effort to protect the hierarchy within the team. But wait, there's something even more revealing about what's happening behind closed doors at Ferrari. The data doesn't lie, and it's starting to expose the truth. Lap traces from Imola show something extraordinary. When Lewis Hamilton is given even partial influence on setup direction, he doesn't just keep pace with Charles Leclerc, he surpasses him on corner entry and exit phases. In black and white telemetry, Hamilton is faster. Engineers may dismiss these adjustments as non-protocol, but the raw numbers make a different argument. When pure performance is sacrificed to protect hierarchy, that's no longer a technical limitation, it's a political statement. Sources close to the team paint a picture of a simmering internal battle. Hamilton's relationship with his race engineer, Riccardo Adami, is described as strained, bordering on transactional. At Miami, when Hamilton requested more precise gap updates to rivals, the replies he received were so vague they were effectively useless. His frustrated sarcasm over team radio, "Do you want me to stop for a tea break?" wasn't just a throwaway line. It was the voice of a champion who felt unheard, even undermined. But the most telling flashpoint came at Monaco. After crossing, The line Hamilton's post-race radio message, "Are you upset with me or something?" hit deeper than most fans realized. Team boss Fred Vasseur tried to smooth things over, claiming Ferrari operates a no-talk policy at specific race moments. But according to insider reports, Hamilton's words didn't come during a critical phase. They came after the checkered flag had already fallen. In that context, the silence from Adami wasn't about protocol, it was about fracture. In Formula One, communication between driver and engineer is a lifeline. Every detail, every bit of feedback can shape strategy and outcomes. Silence in that channel is either incompetence or, far worse, a deliberate signal. And the signals Hamilton has been receiving suggest an environment where his voice isn't amplified, it's muted. The numbers make this even harder to ignore. Analysts point out that if Hamilton had converted just 2 of his near podiums into actual top 3 finishes, Ferrari would be much closer to McLaren in the fight for second. In the Constructors' Championship, every point matters at this level. Every podium matters, and yet, internal politics seem to be costing Ferrari exactly what they claim to be chasing: results. Which brings us to the most critical question as the season heads into its final stretch. Is Ferrari willing to sacrifice championship potential just to maintain a hierarchy that keeps Hamilton in the shadows? Behind the curtain, Ferrari's engineering culture is undergoing a quiet but undeniable transformation. According to insider reports, simulator programs are no longer locked exclusively to Charles Leclerc's preferences. Instead, Lewis Hamilton's setup requests, once sidelined or dismissed as outliers, are now being run in parallel with Leclerc's, and these aren't token experiments. Sources confirm they're being treated as serious development paths, with Hamilton's torque delivery models and adjustments to torque mapping showing immediate gains in simulator output. In other words, the data is proving him right. But with every gain, the political balance inside Maranello becomes more fragile. Leclerc, once the undisputed center of Ferrari's technical universe, is now watching his monopoly slip. Reports suggest he has even requested oversight of setup changes, not necessarily to improve them, but to keep tabs on how far the car is shifting away from his comfort zone. It's the move of a driver fully aware of his influence being tested, his territory being encroached upon. Meanwhile, the rest of the Formula One paddock is quietly taking notes on Ferrari's internal tug of war. To some, it's a warning. To others, it's an opportunity. Over at Red Bull, the fractures within Ferrari are seen as confirmation of their own stability. In Milton Keynes, the car is designed without debate. Every contour, every evolution is tuned to the driving style of Max Verstappen. There is no confusion, no divided loyalties, no competing philosophies. The car and the driver are one. That clarity is exactly why Red Bull dominates. At McLaren, however, the story is different. They see Ferrari's struggle not as a weakness to be pitied, but as an opening to strike. Team principal Andrea Stella has been vocal about his philosophy of driver-driven development, empowering both Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris to shape the car's future. That democratic approach not only keeps morale high but also ensures adaptability to the rest of the grid. Ferrari's internal clash looks less like healthy competition and more like dangerous hesitation, an institution uncertain of its own identity. And now, all roads lead to Monza, Ferrari's home, their temple, their cathedral. Under the gaze of the Tifosi, the most passionate fans in motorsport, the weight of expectation is unbearable. But the real question looming over Maranello isn't just whether Ferrari can deliver a podium at home, it's something much deeper. It's existential. On one side of the garage stands Charles Leclerc, the loyal son, nurtured from within, the face of Ferrari's future for nearly a decade. On the other side is Lewis Hamilton, the outsider, brought in not as a symbol but as a leader, now forcing influence through hard data, sharper insight, and the authority of a 7-time world champion. The truth is simple but brutal. Ferrari cannot serve to masters forever. At some point, performance will force politics to bend, and when that moment arrives, the Scuderia will face its defining choice: embrace change and be reborn, or cling to tradition and risk being weakened irreparably in front of the very fans who demand greatness. Will Lewis Hamilton's quiet revolution push Ferrari toward evolution or implode the team from within? And can Charles Leclerc hold onto his protected status as the data shifts? Monza will give us answers. But until then, I want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Hit like if you enjoyed this breakdown. Share it with fellow fans. And don't forget to subscribe for more F1 deep dives. Thanks for watching.